Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Agency Life. I am absolutely thrilled to have what I would call a special inbound agency friend after I've met Jackie numerous times over the last few months. The first time was at the Impact Live. That was in August, believe it or not. We're here in November right now. Welcome to the show, Jackie from Accelity Marketing.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited that we're making this happen.
I know, it's so good. You are I've never met an agency owner that doesn't have a boring story, like doesn't have like a really interesting story about how they started. And you are no different, right? There isn't you don't go, oh, when you hear about the story, but you have a great one. You had a corporate job and you are the accidental agency owner. Talk to me about that.
True. And I owned a cookie company in there too, which is a very random side
so many
story.
crossovers.
Yeah. So I was managing the marketing department at a private equity owned software company. And when you're private equity owned, you make acquisition after acquisition after acquisition, which was like a great way to really cut my teeth and get that experience. And then they announced that they were selling off half of the company, and thus splitting all of the teams right down the middle. And my team was really small. I was like, oh no, I can't go back to writing every tweet. And I just didn't, it felt like a step backward to me, and I didn't want to do it. And so I was like applying for jobs and thinking about moving to New York or Chicago or somewhere. And a number of people responded that they weren't ready to hire someone and move them. Cities like that are full of marketers, but asked if I could freelance in the meantime. And I was like, do I want to freelance? I don't know. I always say it sounds like a good way to be poor, right? Like it can be hard to keep clients and get clients in the first place and juggle. It's like freelancing is juggling between sales and getting those clients and then actually fulfilling the work. And then when you fulfill the work, then you wake up and you have no clients again. It's like, so I didn't know if I was ready for that. And I went from having no clients to having a few and then having none again, driving for Uber, applying for bartending jobs. I really had no idea what I was doing. And then we kind of hit our stride and started getting more software companies in the door. After about a year and a half, 2 years, I started hiring. Right. And I actually still have a number of my first employees that are now members of my leadership team that are still with me. So
amazing.
6.5 years later, I know.
Amazing.
Crazy.
And you're like, for anyone watching, or if you've ever seen a picture of Jackie, let's put this into context. What age are you? And tell us about what was going on at home as well. You're you are a mom.
Yeah, I am 33 now. I was 26 when I started this. I had a baby at home. So let's see, 7 years ago. Yeah, he was 1. My son was 1. And while I built the agency, I actually became a foster parent and fostered 2 little girls. Adopted my daughter, who is now 13, at 9 years old. So I adopted her 4 years ago. Yeah, it's definitely a crazy life.
While you were building an agency, while you were doing a bit of Uber, while you were applying for bar jobs, that's something else. Where does that come from? Is that in your family? Do you come from a line of entrepreneurs and hustlers, or?
They're hustlers, yes. I wouldn't say that they're necessarily entrepreneurs. My dad always wanted to be. He actually built this weed sprayer add-on for a lawnmower when I was little. And so it was really interesting watching him go through that process of trying to figure out how to build a product. And he was outsourcing production overseas, and he was trying to sell it to some bigger companies. And he had my mom modeling it, spraying weeds in the front yard. So I did watch that, but I guess I didn't think as much of it. He was a politician. He was an air traffic controller. He's a flight instructor. He had a lot of different
jobs.
Yeah. Cool. And I would say I took that, and was like, okay, I've always had a million jobs, a million different things going on. And my mom's a hairstylist, so she does run her own business. She owns her own little studio. But I didn't see that as entrepreneurship until I got a lot older.
Yeah, until you were out in the world to
Right.
actually doing it. Is that the secret behind your fabulous hair, Jackie?
Yes, my mom, 100%.
Because if anyone's ever like watching Jackie on doing your videos, and I want to hear a little bit more of that on LinkedIn, you have a fantastic team behind you, but you look so professional. I always go, God, she's got her hair done again. There's some days I go, I want to make a video. Oh, I haven't time to do my hair.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll take the screen off and I'll just do it without the camera on. So fair play to you.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. That's a secret I just uncovered on the show. Yes.
The real secret is I only shoot videos a few days a week,
Got it,
so
yeah.
I was in the office half the week in my sweatshirt and baseball hat, it's like,
Yeah, with
so
fun.
yeah, I do look a little bit more ready in
Yeah.
those videos.
It's a
So, and
great
that's
tip.
intentional.
Yeah, it's a great tip to just book the day and just go, okay, that day I'm going to get dressed up to the nines and have the hair done and get a few days out of it. That's a really good tip for people, because I think they think they've got to do them ad hoc. Do you know, like go, oh,
Yeah.
I'll do one every day. It's like, no, do 5 and release them. Yeah.
Yeah, I do that, and then I make them like here and there too. Like
Yes.
when I get inspired. Like I was sitting in Miami and I pulled out my phone and shot a video, and I was like, well, don't have any makeup on, not really ready. I'm gonna slap on some sunglasses and talk about it. Whatever, like, so you just kind of figure it out as you go.
If I'd have said this to you, maybe even as less as a year ago, because I know this is something quite new to you, if I'd have told you that's what you were going to do, what you would have said about the amount of recording that you're doing right now?
I would have said absolutely not. I mean, I started probably a year and a half ago and I didn't get comfortable for a long time. I didn't want to do it, right? Like being on video and sharing your experiences and your advice and opening yourself up in that way.
Yeah.
I really did not want to open myself up to the criticism and the nasty comments from people. And I was like, I just don't have the mental capacity to deal with this. But it's pretty positive. I would say 99% of the interaction I get from people is very positive.
And aside from the interaction, the difference it's made in your business.
Oh, so much. It's insane. I mean, we have grown. We've more than doubled in the last year, and I can attribute at least half of that growth to LinkedIn, putting out video content, and just being our own best case study, right? Like we
Yes.
are walking the walk, and people say to me all the time on sales calls, like, I see what you're doing. I see how you got me here. Can you do that for us? So I'm not just advising. We're not the collar's kid with no shoes, like the marketing agency that has a horrible website, which happens all the time.
Yeah, that's brilliant advice. And overcoming your fear of it. What were some of the things that you did to overcome your fear of, and how did you get there?
I am just like, I'm going to jump in and do this person. Once I make a decision, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go all in, because I don't think you can figure out if things work or not if you're not going all in.
Yeah.
I've seen people that say like, oh, I recorded a few videos and they didn't go anywhere. And I'm like, well, record 100 more and then tell me how it works then.
Yeah.
So I just kind of jumped in, and I hired someone to record videos for me and keep me accountable. So I know that if it's up to me to record the videos, I probably won't do it on my own. And they actually taught me a very valuable lesson early on about recording my own videos, because when they asked me to record my own videos in between our meetings and I didn't do it, they would then make me pull out my phone and record them in front of their team members. And that was way worse, like I could have done it in the privacy of my own office, but instead I had to do it in front of them. And I was like, okay, like I learned my lesson. I will now record these videos when you tell me to.
Wow, that's some serious videographer. That's a lot of information there to share with people, the tips. So hiring someone so you have accountability, and budget shouldn't be a factor here, Jackie. In these things, like you can get students who are in local colleges who need to do like assignments. There's plenty of people around. There's plenty of ways to figure this out. It's not like you went and hired like the full-time full person straight away. You can do these contractors. Right. Yeah. And repetition is the absolute, it's like everything. It's like exercise. It's like a muscle. Similar people say to me, oh, you're so natural. I'm like, no, I'm not. None of this is natural. But a lot of repetition. About 2 years ago, I did 44 days in my 44 years as I was coming up to a competition. And because I said it, then I just did it, you know. So every day I did a little Facebook video just to go, oh, here I am. This is what I ate. This is what I trained. I'm off to the States tomorrow, etc. And some of them were really boring. But the more I did it, because I told people I was going to do it, it was like a challenge. The more I did, and by the end, I kept going for like 50 days or something. So repetition, exercise, having someone to make you accountable, a very serious videographer. I love this. This is really, really good. So tell me about the team. I loved seeing your videos and your team and your culture. Like, talk to me about the amount of people in the business and the type of work you do. You're in Milwaukee, right?
Yep. We're in Milwaukee, and there are 16 of us, I believe. We have a few open positions right now. We should be probably around 20 by the end of the year.
Wow.
So we're growing pretty quickly, which is exciting. They're really motivated. They're really dedicated. You can see a number of them that are also on LinkedIn, not because we did once force them to, for a quarter. We had our whole team pitch in and start creating content on LinkedIn just to see what they would get out of it and what kind of, like audience they could gain. And it just built trust for the entire company. But now they're not required to do it. And a number of them are still going and still kind of putting themselves out there and building their own brands. And we give them the space to do that. So, and we do a lot of things with the team. Like we have a monthly event where we go out of the office and do something together, and we have potlucks, and I don't want to say, I think every agency is like, we work hard and play hard. We really do. But also they're not required to put in like a million hours either. So most of my employees work a pretty standard work week, I would say. And when they are working too hard, then we're like, okay, do we need to hire? Can we take stuff off of their plate? Because we don't want them to be like overworked. And we haven't had anyone leave since January of 2018.
Wow.
That's
super impressive. That's so amazing. And you what kind of work do you like primarily do? Like, what's the core stuff for your business? If I came to you, apart from people saying, I see you on LinkedIn, can you do that for me? What other kind of stuff do you do?
Yeah, a lot of people ask me, do you do LinkedIn services? And I don't. And I think that's actually part of what's made us successful is that I'm not making videos as a LinkedIn coach. I'm making videos as a business owner and as a CEO speaking to other business owners. So we actually don't do that. And people are always really surprised that we don't offer those services. What we do is we work with B2B software companies. A lot of them are pre-revenue or fundraising, and help them launch their companies and help them basically get to revenue faster. So like get that system in place. A lot of them are considering hiring someone internally. When we start talking to them, and then we help them weigh the pros and cons, like what is your budget? What are you hoping to get out of it? Because you typically can't hire one person in a startup and have them do all of the design and the copy and run strategy and stuff like that. So we help them get those systems in place. And we work with a lot of our clients for years until they exit. Like we just had two of my very first clients that were working with just me got acquired in the last year. One got acquired by a larger company so we're no longer working with them. And then one got acquired in a private equity roll up, and we actually are now working with that company on a larger capacity.
Nice. That's phenomenal. That's so cool. And what do you kind of envision in the future? Like, what's the plan for the company in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, we're going to keep growing the agency. We're constantly improving our services. We've productized everything. So we've published our pricing, and we're evolving there. And then I could see us rolling out some products too in the future. Ooh. I think we've worked with so many software companies, and we really get to see the guts of the businesses and work with the founders on what they're actually doing to get off the ground. So I think that we have so much knowledge internally now that we have a few ideas. Stay tuned.
Watch this space. That's so cool. That's so interesting. Now, I follow you obviously around on Instagram. You're one of my favorite people to follow, but you just came back from Miami. Like, you definitely, I know you talk about balance, but you definitely have in place a team. You take the time out. How did you get to that stage, or has it always been like that?
It has not always been like that at all. A few years ago, I went to New York for a month in the summer. My team was all working remotely. I didn't really need to be there. And I took my family to New York and was like, okay, I think things will be fine. I'll be working remotely. We lost a big client. like a week in, and then the account manager for that client quit. And
Oh,
I was like,
no.
this company is just nowhere near running at the, at the level that I want it to be. But now I have a leadership team in place that they own the company like it's theirs, right? Like
Wow.
I can sit in meetings and hardly say anything. And while I'm weighing in on final decisions, they're running strategy. They're redoing all of our packages for a January launch right now. And they do kind of like gut checks with me. But I get to be off doing more like building my personal brand and funneling leads to the company in that way. Now we finally have a sales team too that just happened in the last few months, and we're training those people. So it really is getting to a place where I'm like, it's weird. It's like your kids go to college, like, do they need me anymore? I don't know. I think they do.
They definitely do. But like you found your role. Like this is what I'm teaching agencies all the time is like, you have to pick what the role that you're going to have in the business, because you've worn all the hats. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you got to prove yourself. We know that you can do everything. But putting the right team in place, do you use a particular methodology to get the leadership team, or how did that actual structure? Was it your past in the corporate job that you had that skill set to know when the right time was to bring a leadership team in?
Yeah, it's from some of watching what happened in my corporate career. I started my career at GE, which is a huge company, so I
Wow.
got to see all of the layers and everything there. And then the company that I was at grew from about 40 to 80 million while I was there. So I got to see, and they were constantly structuring and restructuring the leadership team. And I got to see what made people unhappy and what made them
Mhm.
happy. But it's also like we use a very specific hiring method called Who by Jeff Smart. I don't know if you've read that book.
No,
It basically, it's pretty good. It
yeah.
just outlines like, here are the interviews that you should do. Here are the questions that you should be asking. The most notable thing that we got from that process is asking our candidates for specific people that we want to talk to instead of whatever references they hand us.
Right.
So in the first interview, we asked them like, who are the peers that you were working with? Who are the managers that you were working with? And when we see things that we want to dig into, we can ask, can you get us in touch with this specific person to talk about your role there? And so we get to hear more of the kind of like real feedback, not just
Wow.
like, here's my reference. And of course they're going to say good things about me.
Yeah.
So
Or the
that's been
generic.
huge too.
Yeah, that's a really great tip for interview. Or they'll give you the generic HR department, and that person, knows that they were in the company, but that's probably about it.
Mm-hmm.
And especially over in Europe, you're not allowed. I don't know what it's like. It's very strict on what you can say and what you can't say. When it
It
comes
is
to,
here too.
yeah. So that is a great tip. I love that. So so a solid leadership team in place. You're working on your
Mm-hmm.
personal brand. What else then is exciting you for you specifically this year, coming up in the coming year?
Yeah, I am taking on some more personal things outside of the company now, which is I haven't had a hobby for years.
Yeah, and you've got
And
a
I was
really
like,
unusual one.
yeah, I know. Yeah. So
I
I'm
love it.
learning to be a pilot. And it's so funny because I wanted to do this for years and I
Mm,
don't think I would have done it now because I feel so busy. I hate the word busy, but I feel very busy right now.
yeah.
But my dad is retiring and I wanted to start my pilot's license training with him, and be
Oh,
able to learn from him because I know that he's excellent. He's excellent at everything
yeah.
he does. He puts in the effort, and I knew he would be a great person to learn from. So he is now a brand new snowbird. He just went back down to Florida on November 1st. And so we spent some of the summer just kind of like doing some training together and getting up in the plane and figuring out, what to do. And so I had this really great baseline. I just transitioned to a new instructor that I'm meeting with on Friday, so tomorrow. Yeah, people go to college for this stuff. I don't think I quite knew what I was getting myself
Yeah.
into,
Yeah.
but I'm glad I'm doing it. I am always really nervous before I get there. And then I always am so excited when I leave, like, holy shit, I just flew a plane,
Yeah.
So
And
that is really exciting to me right
that
now.
is it. So you had a compelling moment to kind of go, okay, I better get in here with your dad. Like, isn't that funny? Some dads teaching their kids how to drive a car. There's your
Mm-hmm.
teaching you how to fly a plane. What a wonderful opportunity to do that with him. And he must have been
Yeah.
so proud of you. It's like such a special thing to do together, to get you
He's
up in the,
so happy.
I'd say so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he must
He
be.
taught me how to drive just years and years
Yeah.
ago. And I remember It was rocky. He brought home a manual car, and I remember lots of crying. And so when we started flying together, I was like, is this going to be like teaching me how to drive? Because I remember that experience was really rough, and it actually was amazing.
Yeah.
Our first few flights together. Yeah.
He was doing it right because, manual, you now know how to do that. So if you're ever
Yep.
traveling around, he did the right thing. He's such a good dad. He's a great dad. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, so I see you like that's, this is a lot of agency owners are just tied to their desks. They're tied. They can't go and they can't do this. Like you have definitely got yourself with a leadership team and the fact that you're embracing your hobbies. But something like flying, I actually, there's so many little things that we have in common. I did take a flying lesson in Australia a very long time ago. And I do remember it being probably one of the best experiences of my life. I got to fly the plane, for a little bit, whatever they let you do. But I think one thing that people don't know that maybe you probably were aware of, but maybe it's kind of highlighted again, the need for checklists in flying is also something that you definitely need when you're in your agency.
And we have a checklist for everything. We built our own intranet. I show during our sales process all of the processes that we have in place to make sure that our clients are getting a consistent experience. And it's very interesting. Another tie to flying is once you learn what to do, some pilots don't use the checklist anymore because they just know. Like you have to walk around the plane before you take off every time, and you're literally checking like gas levels, oil. You're checking like the bolts on the plane to make sure that nothing is loose, and just things I had no idea. And it would be really easy to gloss over that and maybe even get yourself in a bad situation. And I'm constantly telling my team, are we using the process? They're like, oh, well, this is happening. I'm like, well, are we using the process? We have a process for this. Does the process need to change? We're definitely open to improving it, but are we making sure that, we're following the process of what we know works? That's a great tie. I love that.
Yeah. It's because I just finished reading the checklist manifesto about that particular thing. It's checklists are not something you do once and you leave. They're always changing. They're always growing. They're always adapting. Some of them can be too detailed, and then you need to sit back and go, hang on, this is taking us too long because we've gone too granular, and some of them are too skinny, that there's steps that can be skipped. So it's part of everyone's responsibility to build a checklist. Yeah, it's really interesting. Absolutely. And they talked about planes as well, which kind of reminded me of that, which was really cool. Love it. Now I want to know, 6 months ago somebody sat you down and said, you're running this business far too conservatively. How did that conversation come up? And talk to me about who was that brave person?
Yeah, it's funny. It was actually another agency owner.
Okay.
And I was just kind of asking, I didn't realize, so he's grown his agency very quickly. And I didn't realize exactly what had gone into it. It turns out that he had investment and he had just a lot of things that were pushing him to move faster.
Wow.
And then he was like, why have you never done any of this? Like, sure, it's admirable to bootstrap your company and own it by yourself. And, people are always like, wow, I don't know how you do that. And I'm like, me neither. I've nearly driven myself absolutely crazy in the last few years, just trying to figure all of this out. And so it was a big light bulb moment for me. Like, why am I being so conservative? And if I take bigger risks, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? If I have savings or I have a line of credit or something that I can do to back the business up, why not take bigger risks? And that was a big turning point about 6 months ago. We've hired a lot of people. We moved into a new office since then. And we've grown our client base immensely.
Yeah. And so you just bit the bullet on that. Did you do a series of things or one big thing in particular?
I think it was more of a mindset shift and starting to look at like the kinds of content that I was consuming and reading. Gosh, there's a book by the founders of LinkedIn. I cannot remember what it's about that I read right after that conversation, Blitzscaling. And it's just about like how the companies that grow the fastest grow. And it didn't necessarily all apply to me, but I was like, okay, like what do I need to change about my mindset and my actions to move this company faster? And just saying yes more where I would have a tendency to say no. And that applies to a zillion things like speaking and all of the different things that I've been doing that I've been terrified about. If you say yes and you get it on the calendar, you got to do it. And so that's really pushed me outside of my comfort zone.
You hit a target for that. Like you set a target for that at the beginning of the year where you went, I'm going to get on stages. And yeah, talk to us about a little bit about that motivation. And then what did you do to actually get on a stage?
Yeah. The motivation was that I've always been terrified of public speaking. I remember even in college, I would get up in front of a class of 20 people and I would be shaking the whole
Whoa.
time. Just like networking, I was always really scared of networking because I felt I was unqualified to be in the room with those people. And I would like hide in the bathroom or like talk to the bartender, like things that I felt comfortable doing. And I was just looking at, like the ways to grow my business and the things that make me uncomfortable. Like I could avoid public speaking forever, but we wouldn't be growing as quickly, right? And I don't like having weaknesses either. So I was like, I'm gonna try to conquer this. And I can't say that I have conquered it. It's still, even leading up to DAX and that speech, I was really nervous. I practiced a million. I literally like put on my outfit and practiced a million times. And even before I got out there, I was like, what am I doing right now? I don't have a clue what I'm saying. Why should these people, like all those doubts can come in. But I'm getting over it for sure.
Yeah, and every time you do it, you can look back and go, but hang on, I've done that before. Like it's another sort of confidence boost, and you build this chain of positive connections in it. I would never have guessed, because you talked to me first, I think, or we ended up just chatting or something at Impact. While we were there, I would never have guessed you were someone who didn't like networking, because we hit it off straight away. You've definitely done an awful lot of work, and you're a very good actress if you were nervous, because you didn't come across like
Thank you. It's that muscle. It's exactly what you're talking about. I practiced so many times. I felt like I like blacked out on the stage because I don't even hardly know what I said, because it was a muscle that I built from practicing so many times.
Yeah, I'm wearing that.
Yeah, so they sent out the recordings and I'm still sitting on it, like should I watch this? I don't know. I think it went well, but I haven't even watched the recording yet. It's sitting on my desktop. I'm like, at some point I might do this.
Yeah, me neither. I like the photos. I was like, oh, I'm so glad I wore that kimono. But everything, I haven't listened to. There's been a load of things I've done actually in the last few weeks, and I haven't listened to any of them. There's podcast recordings, and I think I need to go on a big long drive and be in the car and just like listen to everything like in one go. Get it all done in one go.
Well, your talk at DAX was amazing. You recommended requiring candidates to submit videos with their applications, and we changed our hiring process to incorporate that just recently per your advice.
So. Oh, thank you. That's fantastic. And that's working out. It's interesting, right? It's really interesting.
It's so funny, because what did you say during your talk? You said, right away in the first few minutes, if it's someone that you want to talk to or someone that you think will have that like confidence in the things that they need for the role. Yeah. And so video just cuts out, some of those steps. And so it's so brilliant. And I had never even thought about it before.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, that makes me so happy. Yeah, it's just a very simple thing that we've picked up over the years. And like the video can be creative. It's not necessarily that they have to have this professional stage kind of thing going on. Something outside. But it's more that they are showing their creativity. It could be a little presentation about them. It just the fact that they are showing their creativity is the main thing. That's what it is. Or, I would just say, like, what's their YouTube channel? What's their TikTok account? Like, everyone's doing video of some format. So let them show their creativity if they weren't particularly comfortable in front of the screen either, just throw it out there. But that makes me so happy. That's really cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
No worries. So it's not like, if anyone's listening to this, it's not all about the highs, that running an agency, like who'd have known that it was this life? Like who chose this life? What are some of the mistakes that kind of really, when you think back, that you wish, God, I hope if you could share that with us, any one or two that you went as an agency owner, number one, they can hear that they're not alone. And number two, they might hear this mistake and go, oh, okay, I don't need to make that mistake. I can circumvent it. Talk to us about some of the, like one specific one that you said here was about picking good fit clients and maybe not.
Yeah, so like three things I can remember really are right at the beginning, making poor hiring choices. Like I said, some of my employees are still with me, and they're amazing. They're the ones that are
Yeah.
running the company. And that just kind of happened, not because I gave them a big tough interview
Yeah.
or, because I really even knew specifically how successful they would be.
Yeah.
And some of my early hires, just it didn't work out because I'd meet people and be like, I like you, let's do this,
Yeah.
and you can't make full-time hiring decisions based off of that. And that's the same thing with prospects. We just had to fire a client last Friday. And this is something that a lot of agencies don't do.
Yeah.
But it was taking such a toll on the company, and it kept coming back to me, and conversations getting booked with me about things that were like clearly outlined in the contract, and just points of contention that I was like, at the time where we're debating these like very simple ways of how we work with clients, this isn't a fit. So, pay up your back invoices and let's be done with this. I'm so happy to, like hand over the processes and that we were able to work together for this period of time. But man, sometimes it just doesn't work. And when you make those bad sales, it can have a huge impact on the team, right? Because
Totally.
then they have to deal with what you sold.
Yeah.
And that can be hard when you're like, ooh, money, like, yeah,
Yeah.
these people want to sign a contract quickly. Great. That sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
So those are, two big things.
Yeah. And as the agency owner in sales sometimes you can make a decision where you might slightly alter the package or slightly give the illusion that something else is going to happen because you're the owner, you're the business owner, you're a business person. And it's like this, something happens, people go, oh, but they said that could happen, and they read between the lines, and then you're out of
Mm-hmm.
the process, and you've got this account management team and a strategist trying to figure it out. There is bad blood in those deals, and it's not worth it
Mm-hmm.
in your team. Really well done to
Absolutely.
say no on it. And the another one as well is I've seen this happen as well with agencies going, if you sit down with the business owner, and sit down and go, let's look at this as a business. This is all we're doing. These are all the hours. This is what's not happening. This is what you're not doing on your side. And leave it as a business case and go, what would you do, Mr. Client,
Mm-hmm.
if you were in my shoes?
I
With all
love
of these
that.
things, it is phenomenal. So you go in and go, let me just talk to you about the hours. We're not profitable. Things aren't being turned around on time. This is the complaints I'm getting. What would you do if you're in my shoes? And then zip it.
Yep. I love that. I usually have not used that strategy, and I will have to definitely in the future. This
Mm.
client specifically said that we needed to lower our hourly rate, and they had a bunch of PhDs doing the work on their team for a lower hourly rate than us. And I was like, that kind of sounds like a problem in your business.
Yeah.
So it was just, it was unrealistic expectations, and it was just better that we parted ways.
Yep.
And then I would say the one biggest challenge that I've faced is just financials and not really understanding how
Mm.
the business runs and how to look at cash flow and when to give people raises. And I got myself in a bad situation at the beginning of last year where
Oh,
I considered selling the business because I was
wow.
dumping a bunch of money into the company. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is too hard. We had hired too quickly and we're just like making decisions, on a whim
Mm-hmm.
more than like fact-based,
Yeah.
cash-based decisions. So that's something I really dug into since that happened, because I was like, if I'm going to keep running this business, I need to get a better understanding of what I'm doing.
And what did you do to do that? Did you get someone? Did you read a book? Did you do a course? How did you get through
hmm
that?
I got a new accountant who tells me what I need to do and is a total ass kicker, which is great. She's like,
Awesome.
gives me really good advice, and just started, my business coach holds me accountable too. Like, we look at the financials of the business, and when we have a month, there's some months within an agency, especially when you're on a cash basis, you lose money, and some months you make money
Yes.
because, if there are 10 invoices that are 60 days late in the months in between, you might lose money. And so looking at that and thinking, why is this? How can we change the way that we build to make sure that we have cash coming in at the right time? Because we have spent so much time reinvesting in the business in the last year that it's not like we have a giant profit margin. I don't think any agency does,
No.
and so just understanding all of that more. And I had always just been like, like I don't want to look at it, and I don't like this part of business. So
Yeah.
as long as the bills are getting paid, looks fine to me. And it just doesn't really work like that.
Yeah. So business coach and a better accountant. I think accountants as well that understand the professional services business
Yep.
is something we always recommend, because like you said, some month up, some month down, but if we can look at the quarter, what's happening in a quarterly basis. How did you find your business coach? I'd love to hear about that, because I know you've talked about her also often, a couple of times,
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah.
This is another thing that I kind of fell into, and she is my stepmom's best friend.
Oh,
And
cool.
when my dad started dating my stepmom, he reached out to me and said, Kate has this friend, Rebecca, that I think you should meet. And I was like, I don't need a coach. I've always been like, I don't need that, whatever.
Yeah.
Now I have like a million coaches and programs and things that I've done to hold me accountable. But she and I just vibed really well. She is similar to me in personality, and she also just really holds me accountable, and she doesn't beat around the bush. Like if I'm late, she's like, why are you late? Show
Mm.
up on time. You're paying for this time. You need to be here on time. Why wasn't this given to me in advance? I didn't get a chance to review this because you sent it to me today. And I'm like, I appreciate someone that can have that conversation with me, because most of your employees won't, right? It's hard to manage up into a business. And so having someone as that solo founder that is holding me accountable on the other side is super important.
Yeah, exactly. It really is. And just knowing that you have that meeting with that person, and you have to step in, because as you don't have to answer to anyone. And now you have
Right.
you have a leadership team, but you're not, you're still the owner of the business. There's a lot of things that can get pushed, can't they? Because I don't have time
Mm-hmm.
for that. But you've
Yep.
set things up so things can't slide. You've got a business coach who could technically be someone your CEO, if you like. If, you can,
Yep.
and your accountant who's doing the numbers, and your leadership team who are all in place to get that done. You've definitely found the right role yourself. And that's
Mm-hmm.
really cool. You've managed to get your hobbies going. you're my
I
text.
don't even know how.
What else do you do to manage like the personal relationships in your life and the kids and things like that? Like how have you set it up, like outside of your, the agency life? You've got a 13-year-old and a 7-year-old, right?
Yep. Yeah. It's so I posted a video on this on LinkedIn actually last year, but
Oh,
I
cool.
got divorced. I got divorced last year, and
Mm,
my ex-husband, the kid's dad, and we got married when we were like in our early 20s, and it was
yeah.
just it was really fast. I think we were married in 9 months, and it was good at the time, and it didn't last. And
Mhm.
that's okay. We actually are still, I was on the phone with him last night because my daughter was doing something, and he's like, can you talk to her? I don't even know what to do. Like, we talk all the time.
Oh,
We
cool.
are about as friendly as two people who used to be married can possibly be.
Amazing.
But he was a really great supporter while I was building the business. And now I have my kids 50% of the time, which is, yeah, it definitely helps in the hours that I put in, because I'm not constantly trying to distract them
Yeah.
and trying to, so I can get my work done. Now, when I have time with them, I can be really specific about it. And I think any parent can do that too. Like,
Yeah.
if your kids are going to watch a movie, then maybe you have time to get something done. But when that movie is over, you're going to specifically sit down and spend time with them, instead of, I feel like a lot of parents just are like, especially the professional ones that are really busy, are just kind of like passing by their kids and don't really have good, and it's by no fault of their own. We're all so busy. We all have so much
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
So that's been something that I've been more specific about, just really trying to like have good conversations with them, do things one-on-one with them, play games with them, and just like set aside that time. And no matter how busy you are, everything's always going to get done. I
Of course
mean,
it will.
when I get to the busiest parts, I look at my calendar and I say, I'm deleting these meetings, and I'm going to decline meetings for the next few weeks, and I'm going to remove these things from my to-do list. It's not getting done, and maybe it's not valuable enough. Maybe I need to outsource it to someone on my team. So, like, I get to that like boiling point, and then I'm like, okay, I need to do something about this. I'm still
Yeah.
looking for a really good system around how I manage everything,
Yeah.
but I think it's going pretty well.
Yeah. It's you definitely. You definitely. I love that boiling point bit. I know where you just snap and you go, right, that's it. I'm doing a spring clean. This calendar is out of control. I can feel that. I remember when we were in New York as well. It was so cool hanging out with you there. You could genuinely feel that you love that city so much. You're like such a New York City gal. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? So we were walking around the streets. You were strutting. It was like, yeah, this girl belongs here for sure.
Yeah.
But when we talked there, yeah, you'd loved it. When we were talking, we were brought up the subject of social media, and you're particularly fighting a particular corner or battle, or how are things going? Because every month is probably a new conversation. But with your daughter and social media, I mean, that's something we had touched on while we were there.
Yeah, it's social media is such a place where kids can, people say things that they wouldn't say in person over social media. And I remember being in middle school, and it was like when websites were new, and we each had our own little websites, and we would like do polls about like the meanest person in 8th grade. I remember I won one of those polls, and how bad it made me feel, and then thought through like how that gets amplified on social media with kids. And especially, like I said, I adopted my daughter when she was 9. She grew up in a different home until she was 6, and then she was in foster care for 2 years. Wow. And so that all plays into how I want her experience to be. And she started finding who she was just a little bit later than other kids. Like my son is 8 and he knows exactly who he is. And she really started that journey when she was 8. And so I just want to be more protective of her. And make sure that, she's not being put in bad situations or bullied or being tempted to make bad decisions, because I want to say I've only been working with her for 5 years on, but kind of true, on like having that really strong, like moral standard and like your personal standards for yourself and who you want to be and who you want to put yourself out as to the world. So we're inching into it. I mean, I can't say no forever. Her friends had iPhones when they were 10. And they've all been on Instagram since they were 10, and she's been begging me for years, and it just
you're fighting a good fight there. Well, there's many studies come out. Something I'm really passionate about. I'm not a mum, but I'm an aunt, and it's something that I read a lot about, because just starting to prepare and sort of help, be there, whatever the message is coming from her parents, to be that person as well. And there's just so many studies coming out to show that children up until the age of 16 actually can't process the messages, the information, or whatever's coming through in the social media the same way they can when they're 16. It's like a cognitive thing that they're doing. But and as well, like I think about our childhoods now, like, and how we never had any any of that. If there was bullying going on at school, it was school. You got home, you had a good 12 hours of respite away from it. It was gone. You could build up, you could talk to your parents, hopefully, if you could, and you could just build yourself up and go back to it again. There was a break, there was a way to get away from it. And it's interesting, that's not there, and it's like incessant, when it starts, it's on, so I feel for them, absolutely feel for them. Jackie, we'll wind this up. This is obviously, we could be here all day, but we'll let people get on with their lives, and we'll continue the conversation when we see each other again soon, no doubt. Wow. But there's agencies just starting out. I love to leave everyone with a kind of a tip for anyone new out there who's like 6 months in, or maybe they're sitting around their kitchen table with a business partner or their partner, or they're just thinking, you know what, I'm going to give this a go. What advice would you give someone starting out right now from the veteran halls of the accidental agency coach?
Yes. My best advice is to get out and start selling. It's not, I've met a lot of people that like put together a great website. They have really nice business cards. They have their email marketing system set up. They're active on social media, but it's so hard to sell when you don't have any clients yet. Right? So, and the best way and I talk to prospects all the time. They're like, well, we want to put this system in place. And I'm like, how many conversations have you had? How many customers do you have? Because you have to have those conversations and do that like blood, sweat, and tears legwork up front to get those first 5 or 10 or however many customers before you can start setting up a system that works on its own. And I think a lot of people make the mistake of trying to set up that system, you know, and grow by social media or email or digital without picking up the phone or writing the emails or going to the networking events or whatever it may be. So you really have to put in that legwork at first. And if you're not doing it, it gets started.
Yeah, I saw that latest post you put up. It's like sales, 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 sales.
Yep.
Sales, sales,
That's
sales.
the most important part.
And some more sales and to whatever. And to anyone, you know, like get your friends, like just whoever you can sell to, test, fail in the field, and get out there. That's a fantastic advice. Jackie, where can people find you mostly?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my spot. I am the Jackie Hermes on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. I'm not there too much. And you can, I think my email address is even on our website. So hit me up.
Perfect. Well, we'll be putting all the links into the show notes. Thank you. Thank you for being an amazing interview. I just love this story. I can't wait to hear many more from you. And thank you for looking for so fabulous. If anyone's watching this on YouTube, you can hop on over there as well.
Thank you. You're wonderful.
Take care. Thanks a million, guys. And I'll see you really soon on the next episode.